Hello everyone, it's Trina Reynolds at John's Furniture Repair here with another project in the shop, and it is this beautiful cloverleaf veneered mahogany table with edge banding, and we've got really gorgeous glass ball feet. So we're going to be restoring this guy completely. Let me show you some details. Okay, so right off the bat we can see a lot of veneer missing and lifting. So we'll be patching in new pieces. We're not going to re-veneer this top, and gluing down things that are missing and loose. We've got a little bit of water damage on the finish. I think that's all pretty superficial. On the bottom, we also have a little bit of water damage on the finish, which I think is okay, but we do have some veneer issues on the bottom of the top as well, so big chunks missing there. Look at these beautiful legs. Nice fluting job to a taper, and then to really beautiful little eagle feet with a glass ball. So we'll get those all shined up. They'll be nice. If you remember the little piano stool that we did, it'll be just as beautiful as that one. So we'll be taking this all apart to deal with all these issues, mainly the top. The other thing is we have this really pretty little edging, little bead edging, and a lot of it is missing. So I'm actually going to be removing all of it, and I've ordered some beading from a reproduction company in Chicago, and they are going to be making it. They make it to order, so we have to wait about 2 weeks for that. But I'm going to steal as much as I can from the bottom to put the original on the top beading here, and then use my reproduction stuff where I have to on the base. So we're gonna get that all off. And it's pretty good most of the top, but then we get to a couple places where it's just completely missing. Right around here. But for the most part, it's here, and we'll be able to replace it with whatever we have left down there and get it looking good. So let's get this thing taken apart and get going. They have new screws in the feet, so we'll put some nice screws back in here, just some Robertson steel screws that have been replaced. These always wobble, so you can stuff some paper in here just to take up that wobbly leg feel. Paper or steel wool, those things work. And then we'll put a nice slotted screw here afterwards. So let me get a screwdriver and we'll get these guys out. Going to grab my stamps and give it a little mark. All right, so I've got them stamped with the shelf, and I've also got the stamp here so I know which leg goes to this bracket. So these are pretty loose, so I'm just going to take them out just by using my turning in a circle method, where you just kind of walk the dowel out of the joint. There we go. And then we'll take out the last screw here. Looks like there was just one spot of glue from where the dowels went through, but it wasn't actually glued on, so we'll just keep it that way. Okay, so you can see we've got quite a bit of veneer missing on the bottom. So before we do patches, we need to make sure we get this all glued down. And before I start doing that, I am going to take off all of this trim. Am I or am I? I'm not sure if I'm going to take it all off, actually. It's in really good shape on the sides. I might try to actually keep the stuff that is intact on. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to work with it on. If it really makes me upset, I will take it off, but I can probably strip around it. It's all metal. But I do need to take off enough from this shelf to replace what's missing here. But this is put on with little nails. And so you just get your little nail puller here. And pop out the little brass nails, just like that. There we go. So I'm just gonna go around and pull these little nails and get this all off of here. Okay, so working on the bottom veneer, I'm just going to be patching it with this alder, and I'm probably gonna have to double it up because this is much thicker. I thought I had some old veneer left for underlayment, but I don't. So I'm just gonna double up this stuff and stain it to match. So I'm just gonna be doing a patch. I'm gonna get rid of all these jagged ends here so I can get a nice patch in. And I think I'm gonna come, just so it's easy, I'm gonna come like right up this line here. So I'm just gonna go past all the breaks and save myself weird cutting. There we go. So we'll just remove everything that we don't need. I might be able to use those pieces over on this side here where there's just a small amount of damage. Got hide glue in the pot warming, so I thought I'd just get all my cutting done. I think that's something that I'm still learning, is to turn your glue on in the morning. But I am just kind of in the mix of switching over to hide glue for a lot of my antique repairs, even though I'll still always use the other glues, especially for veneer. It's an excellent glue, but a lot of the old pieces already have hide glue, and so when you use hide glue again, because it's hydroscopic, it will actually activate the old hide glue, and then you don't have to clean that joint out as much. You can kind of work with what's already there. Plus, then if someone wants to repair it in the future, because a lot of these antiques are going to continue to carry on. They have before me and they will beyond me. So the next person who works on them will be grateful that they don't have to soak their joint in acetone to get epoxy off, or whatever it is. There we go. Awesome. So now I just need to cut a couple of pieces to fit. There we go. And then I'll just use my kindergarten skills and trace out that outline. Just double check my fit. This is paper-backed veneer, so it's really easy to work with. Okay, just want to make sure my grain is running. So put it like that. You can just glue your paper on too, which is a little better because you can, your piece stays stuck on even after you're done cutting it, whereas when I cut the tape off of this, it's gonna fall off. Anyways, and then I'll double stack it that way and glue these two together. Make sure the grains are running the same. Good, and then I'm just gonna cut it out with scissors. This is like kindergarten class, it's so fun. So easy when it's paperback veneer. You can use a X-Acto knife too. It's a little bit easier on your hand. Okay, so we've got the bottom veneer repairs all finished. You can see them there, those two patches, and then I had to do a bunch here as well. And then we've got our two new patches here looking really good. Everything is level and smoothed off. So now we can turn our attention to the top. And I like to do all my veneer repairs before I strip the finish, just because I don't want finish and stripper underneath the veneer. So I want it to be as dry and clean as possible, so it kind of is right now. So this piece has a lot more going on than the others, and they need to be perfect looking because it's the top. I'm going to scrape around the area so I can see the grain pattern of this mahogany. and try to match something as close as I can because it's going to be right on the top and very visible. So I want my grain lines to help me hide it. So let's start with the middle. And this piece here is a little lifted. All around it has kind of buckled and bubbled. But other than that, everything else, other than these, you know, holes, it's not generally lifting, which is really good. It's just where the damage has gotten to and flaked up. So we can kind of localize our repairs, which is really nice, instead of having to peel up all this veneer, which is not the easy way to go and not recommended. I kind of cringe when I see people removing veneer because it has a little chip, or if it's loose. I always prefer to glue down the veneers that the builder chose when he first created the piece, to try to save the integrity of the artist. So I'm gonna get my little scraper here, and I'm just going to scrape around the area. It looks pretty straight grained. I just wanna get this finish off. Good, and then I'll get some alcohol and just kind of wipe away the shellac, which is what is the finish on this piece. And then I can kind of see a little bit more. Yeah, so it's a pretty straight grained mahogany piece. And a lot of the mahogany I have is a little bit figured, but I'm gonna try to see if I can find a straight grain piece here. Let me show you a little closer. Yeah, so if I get it wet here, you can see a little bit better. And it's been dye stained, so the color is very much still in all of the wood, but it's going back to the original, so I don't care about that. But you can see the grain is pretty straight running through here. It's a little bit twisted around there. So let's see if we can find something to look okay there. Okay, so I found a couple pieces that are pretty nice. I can't use all of the sections, but this here is a very straight grain mahogany. Very similar to what's going on there, so I think that'll work. I found a couple other ones, and the ends of these crotch pieces are nice and straight here, so I might be able to keep those for the other repairs. So now I'm wondering if I should, I think I want to glue this down first and then do the inlay, just to make it a little bit easier. I don't want to lose, I've just, you know, I'm thinking, should I take this out because it's so bubbled there and under tension, or should I try to save what's here and then just do these little pieces? I think I can probably get this back down with enough pressure. Yeah, so I think I'll just glue down what is here because I really want to save as much as I can first, but at least I know I have the right thickness and grain to fix that with. So, and these will be really tricky inlays, but we'll just take our time and get it as good as possible. This one's good, it's got a straight edge here. So what I'll probably do is kind of clean up these edges. It's kind of jaggedy edges inside of these breaks. So I'm just gonna take a chisel and I'm gonna straighten it out so it's easier to make a piece. Just taking off the little torn fibers. Don't want to lose any pieces underneath because then it won't come back. There we go. Good. That one's a nice little triangle now to trace. I'll just straighten up the other one. Good, so I've got two nice triangles here I can trace. Now this veneer is a little harder to work with than the other veneer because it is actually antique veneer. that someone gifted me a long time ago, and I've been using it for years. They did a really beautiful cabinet build, and they had ordered a whole bunch of specialty veneers. In the world of repair, leftovers and junk drawers are always the best things. So I'm gonna get this piece here and try to pick the straightest part I can see that looks good. I think maybe like right here is a good spot, and I'm gonna use a little bit of hide glue and glue this on. I'm gonna cut it out first. Good. So I'll be using my little veneer saw for this, just so it doesn't break. And I'm gonna, when you're cutting veneer that's pretty fragile, you wanna support your cuts with some tape. So I'm gonna put some tape on the back. They have sell veneer tape too that you can use, which is really nice. But I'm just gonna use painter's tape here. Okay, so I'm gonna cut along the grain with the knife, I'll just do it and just shut up. Okay. Oh, my glue is not quite dry. Have to be a little bit careful. I'm gonna try to do this with the chisel. There we go, that's one. Great. All right, let's see how they fit. Okay, so that's our piece fitting in there, nice and tight joints. And this piece here is damaged, so we'll just have to try to get it to fit back together. Same with this bubble on the top here. But our new pieces look good. The grain is running pretty well along with it, so we should be able to hide the repair. So now I can glue this all at the same time. And what I'll do is put a board across the table with one board that goes here and then clamped on both sides. So it'll put pressure just on this area, and then we'll get a nice glue up there. Okay, so we're going back to the original color with this piece, but I still have to get this color up because what's going to happen is when I put my stay on, you're still going to see all these blotchy parts of the old dye stain. And I think this mark here, they must, when they glued these two panels together, must have had a little bit of glue transfer and that dye didn't sink in all the way. So we got a big weird stripe there. So because we got to do this stain again, I want to start, and in any stain for that matter, you want to start from a neutral, consistent base, and this is not, so we're going to have to bleach it. So there's 3 different kinds of bleach. One of them is not really a bleach, it's an acid. So oxalic acids remove mineral stains, and they do bleach some of the wood and lighten it. So that's what you use for those. 2-part bleach will only remove the actual natural color of the wood. So if you're taking, you know, red oak and you want to white it out, or you want to remove some of the red in mahogany, or that's what you would use that for, that because it changes the actual natural color of the wood fibers. And then regular bleach, you can also use pool bleach if you want a stronger solution, will remove dye stains and colors. So if you've got the old stain that's stuck in the wood, or you've got an ink stain or something on your wood that is actually colorant, you want to use regular bleach. So that's what this is here. If you check out our Facebook or Instagram page, there was a dresser that we did many years ago that was completely this red dyed stain. It's a maple dresser that was dyed dark red to look like mahogany, which was often the case back then. And they wanted to bring it back to the natural blonde maple. So that was quite a crazy job, and you can see how much lightening we had to do on that job if you just go through the little picture reel that we have there. That was before the days of YouTube in the shop, in our old shop actually, in Windsor. So again, after this, I'll need to rinse it with water and neutralize it with a vinegar. If you leave bleach on, it'll actually continue to eat the fibers. Have you ever had a t-shirt where it's been bleached too many times and it starts getting holes in it? That's the fibers being destroyed by the bleach. And the same thing is going to happen with the wood. If you do not neutralize or wash off this bleach, it will actually deteriorate the wood that it's come in contact with. So you have to neutralize and you have to wash that off and stop that from happening. I've seen a trend on TikTok, and I really hate it. And I don't want to talk bad about people, but there's a trend on TikTok and Instagram where people are stripping furniture with oven cleaner. And despite the fact that it doesn't work very well, people aren't washing that off and neutralizing it. And that is actually going to destroy the fibers of the wood that you're coming in contact with, because it's a really strong chemical. And over time, it's just going to soften and eat away at that wood. So be really careful what you actually use when you put it on wood, because wood is a natural product. And if we put chemicals on them, we have to make sure that we neutralize them so they don't start destroying the wood that you want to restore. All right, so we're just going to let this do its thing and lighten. And we might have to do a couple of coats, but hopefully we'll get this to an even enough state that we can restain it back to the original and get a nice even color. All right, so I've got all my veneer repairs finished. The top is repaired. Some of my grain lines up better than others. This one I tried to kind of follow the curve there. A little bit with that one, should have gone maybe a little straighter. This one's pretty good. This one's really impressive. I'm so proud of myself. You can see that new grain lining up with the old grain there. 1, 2, 3, 4, like some of this is just amazing. Applaud if you like. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that one. That was We did a really big patch over here where that hole was. This one's gonna need some work on coloring and just giving it a little bit more character because it's a little too blonde. And I was able to use some of the old chips to fix some of the smaller ones here. And we did a little edge piece there that turned out good. And then this was the biggest one here. And it was quite difficult, but I'm really, really happy with the results on this one and the grain matching. So my big ones look awesome. My other than that one, it's a little bit more texture. This one's okay. It's gonna also need more texture. It's a very blonde piece of mahogany, so we'll have to give it some color too. But overall, all of the repairs turned out really great. So I'm gonna get the finish off of this top now and give it a good sand and think about the edge. Okay, so I did 3 coats of the bleach and I'm ready to sand this down again. I wiped it last night with some vinegar, so everything should be good to go. These last little red specks that are up should sand away because they're sitting on the surface. I was mostly concerned with this area here, so I'm really happy with how that looks. So let's give it a final sand. Okay, so now that we've got all the edge repaired and put in the pieces that were missing, secured the pieces that were loose, we can turn our attention back to the top. Because this is a veneered top, I want to do less sanding than I did on the shelf. So I'm going to steam it first because there are a lot of dents and gouges and things that I'll be able to get up. Just have to be careful when you do steam because this thing is put together with hide glue, that you're not getting too much moisture. Just enough to kind of surface moisture and heat, I guess. Not enough moisture is okay, but the heat, if it gets too hot and moist below the wood's top surface, your repairs could start popping. But I'm not staying in one spot too long. I'm really just trying to minimally help my chances of getting all of these dents out before having to do too much sanding. And you'll see a lot of the color comes up with the steaming process too. So we've got a pretty good dark stain here. So I'm not sure if that's going to come up with our sanding. But I guess we'll just see, and if it doesn't, then we'll just have to go on to perhaps some oxalic acid there. It looks like it could have been a mineral stain from a plant or some kind of water sitting on it. Yeah, that's helped quite a few. There's a couple that I'm going to spot steam that are really deep. Okay, so now that I've got it steamed and it's all dry, I'm going to start sanding with 120, move to 180, and then finish with hand sanding. Okay, so most of that big stain here did come up. You can still see a little bit of the shadow here. I'm going to wet it to see what it looks like. And also around this damage, there's a little bit of discoloration left here. You can't really see it too much, but what I'm going to do is take some denatured alcohol and I'm just going to wipe the surface and see what we're looking at. Pretty good. Yeah, I don't think that's anything to worry about. Just make sure this side's looking pretty even. Yeah, that looks really good. Well, it looks kind of terrible on camera actually, but in terms of evenness, it looks really good. So there was only really one area that I tried steaming as much as I could, and it did come up, but it still is quite a little dent right here, so we'll have to fill that. And around this guy here, there's a little bit of a gap that I need to fill, and a couple of other little things, but we'll do that, and then we'll do the final 180 with the sander and hand sand. And then this top is ready to start thinking about color. So I'm gonna stain this before the beading comes because I'll have to color it separately anyways. And I'm gonna be using a couple different stains. The base piece, because it's a solid mahogany piece and we had to sand and bleach, I'm gonna need to put that red back. So I'm gonna be using a cherry stain for the bottom. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna need it for the top completely. I wanted to, because this was a pretty dark stain on this piece and we're going back to the original, I'm gonna be staining over it with a highly pigmented stain called red mahogany. And I just wanna make sure I can get the red, and that actually, despite the name, red mahogany doesn't have a lot of red. So I'm gonna be pre-staining the base here. And you can see the legs still have all of their red because we didn't have to do any major sanding to those. So that's that dye stain that's still in there. So I'm just going to be staining this part, and we're going to go over the brass parts, a little beading on the side, because we don't want it to be bright like that. It looks too cheap, so we're going to give it kind of a glaze by just staining over it, which is what they had done as well. So I don't think I need to stain the top the same way. We didn't bleach it, so it'll be a little bit different. Still quite a bit of red, but a little bit more orangey, but very similar to the legs. So I think what I'm going to do is just use the red mahogany on the top, because I don't think we need to add that extra red, and I'm just going to wash over it the whole way there, and then I'm just so I don't have a weird mark, and then I'm going to take some Varsol, and I'm going to use it as kind of a conditioner, wood conditioner, because I don't want this to stain up too dark. So I have to do a lot of color work with my patches. So let me grab that Varsol so we can just wipe it over the whole top. Okay, that only took me 10 minutes to find. So I'm just gonna squirt it on my rag and saturate the top. So that my stain just floats over the top instead of really diving into any areas too much. Okay. I've got these stains all mixed too. So I'm just gonna start. You can even see how the Varsol kind of repels the stain. Which is perfect. If you want to work fast so you can get to it before all the Varsol evaporates. And then same thing with the edge, I'm just gonna stain over that beading that we've got all in place. And give it some glazing effect. Yeah, I like that color. So you can see, and I knew that little middle patch there is going to need some red and to be darker. That's okay. That one in particular was a really light piece of mahogany that I used. See our patches there? They stained up pretty good. Not too bad. They'll need a little bit of blending in. A little bit darker, a little bit more red. but not too bad. Those ones stick out the most. This is our really big one in the middle. Not too bad, you know, overall. Kind of looks blotchy and bad on camera, but trust me, it looks really good. And when we get that lacquer on, these colors are gonna pop. So I'm gonna just finish staining the rest of it with the red mahogany. And then we're just waiting for the rest of our little trim. Okay, so there we have it. The whole thing's kind of looking like a hot mess. Something interesting that I see now, even though I put it back together the way that it's supposed to be, or that I took it apart anyways, is that the grain runs horizontal going this way, and on the top it goes the opposite way. So interesting. Don't know if that was intentional, but maybe it's just an oversight. Anyways, we've got a hot mess of a light brown on the bottom, a dark Regency red on the legs, a orange kind of brown cherry on the top, and then speckled with all these repairs, patches. So we got color work to do for sure. Basically, the legs are what I'm going for, but believe it or not, they need to go a little bit darker brown instead of red. And to get back to the original. And that's gonna need a lot of red added to it, purpley red, and then some dark over top of that. So first step is to get everything red enough, and then I'm gonna bring it all down. You want to make sure you don't darken things before you have the right color, because adding color does darken pieces. So also with that, we need to get away from the orange on the top. So we're going to pop over to the opposite side of the color wheel and give it a kind of greeny blue hit so that we can bring that a little closer to more of a Cordovan red and not an orange cherry red. So lots of complicated stuff to do, and I'll take you along with the process. Other things is I love this beautiful shadowing grain coming across here, so I'm going to fake it till we make it on these pieces and bring that right through there to help it hide. Same thing in the middle here. We've got a nice dark color that comes through there, so we'll do that on those ones. And this guy here needs some of that brought right through as well, so we can just hide these patches. So it's really nice to get that first coat of lacquer on, because I can really see what I need to do to make them fit into the rest of the family here. This one's actually really great. I don't need to do much of anything to that other than a little bit of color on that corner, because the grain straightens out here nicely, and these two are looking good as well. Maybe just a little bit darker on this one. But other than that, we got a lot of work to do, but it's looking good. So let's get to working. So I'm going to be taking the bottom shelf off here. I got a couple coats on the table now. And why am I taking this off? Because I can't stand that it's two opposite grain directions. I keep looking at it and I'm like, no, I hate it. I don't like how it looks. I don't care if that's how it was. I'm gonna see if it fits the other way because it's bothering me too much. and see if it even fits this way. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna have to suck it up, but seriously, I just feel like, oh yeah, we can make that work. Perfect. Then I'll be able to sleep at night. The other thing I'm gonna do with the top, I decided that I'm going to do a grain fill on it. And not like a super filled, perfect, no grain finish, but just something to give it a little bit more of a uniform grain, because my pieces are a little bit different in grain, and that's just gonna help. Some of them are pretty similar actually, but there's just a couple that are different. And I'm just gonna be using a water-based putty, watered down and kind of squeegeing it over the surface. So I'm gonna make that up just in a little pail with some water. Okay, so I just got a bowl and I'm gonna be using an ebony Timbermate. You can buy grain fillers too. But me and my dad have done it this way for a long time and it works just fine. So I'm just gonna water it down. Not too much. Just to get kind of a really consistent looser, plastery kind of. You can get tinted, you can tint this stuff, you can buy tinted grain fillers. I actually wanted to order my favorite mahogany grain filler, but they are back ordered. So I thought, whatever, I'll just make it myself. And you can get them in different colors. Or you can get clear, water-based. They make lots of different types of grain fillers. Okay, now I'm just gonna take that, dump it on the surface. Just gonna grab my spatula. There we go. And then I'm just gonna put some water on the surface. And then use my large go right across the grain. I'm just going to remove as much of the excess as I can. And you definitely want to do this before you do any color work, because you got to sand this after. If you don't have like a tinted putty, you just have a natural putty, you can stain over this after too. Here we go. So we'll just let that dry and seal that in with another coat of lacquer. We're gonna have a nice build on this table. All right, so I'm installing the feet. All the finishing is done. I'm still waiting for bead trim. So I'm just gonna leave that shelf off. And I've got these guys going on, and a couple of them were loose, if you remember. We did fix the ball that was loose, but for me, the easiest thing to do is hockey tape. And it'd be nice if I had black hockey tape, but you can't see it in there. So I guess maybe it's because I'm from Canada. Anyway, so I'm just getting those installed and not putting back the Robertson screws. I've got some slotted screws from my stash here. So I'll just get those all screwed on and keep waiting for bead trim. Okay, it finally came. Comes from Chicago, and it came very well packaged in between some heavy cardboard and bubble wrap. I've never used this type of beading before, and I could have made my own beading with my mold maker and stuff like that, but I was so busy doing so many other things, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna order it and then get to other jobs while I'm waiting for these to come instead of spending time. So let me show you a little closer what they look like. They're a composite material that they have, they have a bunch of molds on hand that they can put in to their machines and get this stuff. So, but you can see our beading here on this piece is a metallic, so I'm gonna need to color these for one thing. Okay, so I'm working with this stuff. These finally came in, and what I'm doing, did a little test one here, and what I ended up doing was gold leafing it to get that really real metallic shine, and then doing some glazing and a couple of toners. And I can show you the original here, right up to this one here, so you can kind of see it's pretty similar, looks metallic, but is not. So you can steam these to put them on, to bend them, or you can just glue them on. And for this one, I can just glue them on because it's not that much of a curve. So what I'm using is just some regular glue, and I'm just kind of soaking the whole piece because the resin does absorb, and I want to make sure I get it into the creases in between each of the little balls because I want the gold leaf to stick there too. Now we've got that all covered, I'm gonna take these sticky gloves off, and I'm just going to grab some of my scrap pieces of leaf and start laying it down. Okay, so now I've got that on there. I'm just going to clean it up with a little brush away all the little extra pieces. Just kind of pull it off with my hands, clean it up a little bit. Okay, so then I'm going to start glazing, and I'm just going to use the same stain that I used on the top, the brown mahogany. And I'm going to only touch the sides, and it's going to run in between the beads. I'll show you what I mean when I do this side, because I don't want to glaze over the top. I want the top to be a nice shiny brass. And I'll do the other side. And that's going to give it that look of the other stuff that's on the cabinet already. It has all the color in between the beads. See what I mean? Color in between the beads. And we'll just give it another, this is a very thinned out application of the stain, so I'm just going to give it a couple of touches so we get that nice dark outline around the bead. Okay, and it's still a little bright, so I'm going to hit it with a couple passes of extra dark walnut. let it dry for a sec. And then to take down that gold a little bit, bring it a little bit more into the green zone, I'm gonna hit it with some raw umber. And there it is. Okay, so I think I've got enough of this bead colored, and I've just been working around the piece and making sure that everything's lining up. And I've just been wiping off a little bit of the tint on the old beading, just so it shines a bit. Just like that. So I'm just using white glue to glue everything on, and I'll do this section here. And I'm just running a really small bead. There's always squeeze out, which is fine because I'll just clean that up later. But I'm just gonna run a really small bead all along where I'm gonna glue it. And then I've got little vinyl strips here that's gonna go under my tape because I don't want to put the tape directly onto the bead because I don't want it to pull off the paint job or the... I'm just going to cut a couple pieces here. So I'll just put it on my tape, get that all ready, and then I'm just going to position the bead. I was going to nail these on, but the company says you can just glue them on, and they do form fit pretty nicely, so as you can see there. And I'll just try to wipe away as much excess glue as I can from around it. You know, you want to have coverage, but you don't want to have big lumps of the glue. Yeah, that's good. So I'm just going to line up these two together. Stays in place fairly well, but I am going to hold it down. There, so then I can take my tape with my little vinyl strip and just put some good pressure along that area. Like that. So I'm just gonna finish up working around and then we'll let these dry for a bit. Here it is, all finished. We've got all the trim back on and it's looking really good. This is a very dark finish, but it's back to the original, which is what was requested. So if you don't like dark finishes, move along. But I think it really does still highlight the beautiful grain in the sun. I've got it so you can see it really nice. And we've got the ball feet all polished and back on. And you can see, if you can tell the difference between my fake trim and the real brass trim there. Mine looks a little bit messier, but it's a good pass. So thanks for joining me on this little veneer battle. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, buy me a coffee in the link in the description below, and check out our other videos. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. It helps out the channel quite a bit. Cheers!